Hello, my name is Julie Moon. I'm Senior Research Analyst with Finovate. We're here live at Finovate Fall, and I'm joined here by Jeremy Balkin, Head of Innovation at HSBC. Jeremy, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Julia, and good to see everybody again for another year at this awesome event.
Great. So last year we chatted, and you had just recently deployed Pepper into a physical bank branch. And we're really excited that Pepper is actually on site here at Finovate today. Tell us a little bit about the background of who Pepper is and how you're employing it.
Yeah, so we deployed Pepper, the robot, the world's leading social humanoid robot. We made history as the first major bank in the world and certainly the country to deploy a social humanoid robot in a bank branch. We did that a year ago in June of 2018. To say the least, the results have been staggering. You know, we're now in not only our flagship branch in Manhattan, we're in a brand new branch built from scratch in Soho, which everyone has to check out. We're in Seattle, we're in Miami, we're in Silicon Valley, we're in Beverly Hills. We also went to Canada, so we went to another country for HSBC. And the appetite, the engagement, the customer engagement, the employee engagement, there's not a week that goes by where a branch manager in HSBC, somewhere in the world, and it's a big world for HSBC, is not reaching out to me saying, hey, Jeremy, how do we get Pepper in my branch?
Cool.
My people keep asking me about it. Our customers are reading about it. You know, when can we come? And that's our biggest constraint now is trying to think about how we say no in a respectful way because there's so much demand for it. And we've got a very methodical plan and how we've staged the rollouts in a very methodical way to make sure we do it right.
Yeah.
We don't get caught up in the hype every time we launch it. We start from zero, we remain humble, and we start again, but the results have been incredible. And to say the least, that's one of the really important things why we're at Finovate is to share some new historic data that no one's ever heard before about the case study, which is at our flagship branch in Manhattan, which is not very far from here actually. We've had a 41% increase in new business, new account openings at the flagship branch for the full 14 months, so year and 2 months that Pepper has been deployed compared to the comparable prior 14 months where Pepper wasn't deployed. 41% increase, which is not only staggering, but it's sustainable. And it just proves that the one or two naysayers, the cynics, the haters who might still be out there, that this is probably the worst gimmick in history, because if it was a gimmick, it wouldn't still be front page news. The results wouldn't be staggering and sustainable. We wouldn't be rolling it out. Get on board this journey. Banking can and should be fun. Customers should love banking. That's what drives us. We want a customer experience that is second to none. We want customers to engage with the financial institution. There's the same passion and energy and excitement that you do with every other aspect of your life. And that's why we're so grateful to Finovate, because you've allowed us to share that with our peers, to collaborate with fintechs and work together as an industry, because if it's not fintech or banking, it's fintech and banking. That's how we win together.
Yeah, cool. And 41%, congrats, that's amazing.
Thank you,
yeah.
Thank you.
So there's been a lot of talk in fintech about foot traffic in branches versus mobile traffic.
Yeah.
And so Pepper is obviously driving a lot of foot traffic into these branches, you know, with that 41% increase in account opening. From a cost perspective, does it make sense for people to be driving people into bank branches when there's a lot of cost there versus if they just whip out their mobile phone? So
any retailer, if you have physical retail, the marginal cost of bringing the next person in is zero. So if regardless of industry, if you're having physical retail, you want that retail store to be fully patronized. Otherwise, it's a bad investment, bad deployment of capital. And that's immaterial of whether you have digital channels or not. If you have a physical store, you want it to be utilized. From a financial services perspective, it's slightly nuanced in the sense that financial services, particularly in the US, is still a very people-to-people business. And I would argue, just as a structural trend, that even with hyper-digitization, which is clear is happening, that as customers' needs become more complex, their wealth grows, marriage, family formation, mortgages, insurance, some of those decisions cannot be solved by a screen in a one-way interaction with a screen via fintech. You actually want to talk to somebody for some of those life's most pressing challenges. And I would argue that we will see this over the longer term, that there'll be a huge premium placed on human interaction, including in financial services, for the best service. Even though the digital channels can probably solve for today 99% of your needs. With that being said, you ask about bank branches, and there are three, in my view, or our view, there are three reasons why a customer goes to a bank branch, which are the same three reasons, for example, that a customer goes to an Apple store, to use an example. And I think as an industry, we've probably played to our weaknesses instead of our strengths. What are those three reasons? A customer goes to an Apple store, for example, for a sense of community, to be with people like yourselves. You want to touch and feel and try before you buy those products. And the final thing is to get advice. Now, in the old days, a customer would go to their bank branch because it was a sense of community, it was the center of their town. But there's been a lot of pressure on bank CEOs to not invest in the physical experience of the bank branches for 40 years or so. That's a weakness. We've turned a strength, a natural strength of ours, into a weakness. It's hard to touch and feel products in a banking environment. You can touch a credit card.
Yeah.
So that's a natural weakness, but absolutely it is a strength to provide advice. So you talk about Pepper the robot. What does Pepper the robot do? She gives you a reason to come to the bank branch. She gamifies, because you can touch and feel, you can gamify that experience, especially binary interactions. And then if you so choose to be served by Pepper straight through, there are some journeys like applying for a credit card, like financial inclusion, like financial literacy, learning about products and service, self-service options, watching how-to videos. Great. But if you then ultimately want to work with one of our great our advisors and relationship managers to do what they do best, which is to understand what your needs are, fulfill those needs, think about the longer term challenges, then that's a win.
Yeah.
And so we think those three reasons are why customers, as an industry, we should play to those strengths as an industry to relive the branch experience. At the same time, realizing it's a phygital, it's physical and digital.
Yeah. And
you got to have those channels all working together in harmony. That's how you get the scale you need to grow and to meet those needs for customers, because we know customers that are served through the physical and digital channels are the most engaged, are the most satisfied. It's not one or the other, it's one and the other.
Yeah, so how does that work with Pepper? Because obviously it's kind of a physical experience, but then it's also a bit of a digital experience. So how do you kind of keep that omni-channel experience going when there's a robot involved, a physical robot?
We did a study before we launched Pepper at our flagship branch over 3 months. And one of the key things we found, which surprised us in many ways, was that 73% of the time, so 3/4 of a customer's time, and therefore our highly trained staff's time, were being spent on what we might describe as a binary or generic interaction. Customer walks in, they ask, where's the ATM? They ask, where's the teller? Can I get foreign currency? Where's the nearest subway? Can I get a coffee nearby? Do you know the weather today? Like these are not necessarily fun. They're not fun for a customer, and then they're definitely not fun for our highly trained staff. So we thought, if at first instance, if Pepper could help solve for that, free up 3/4 of their time, give that time gift back to customers, that was a win. So exciting and delighting, essentially. But then we soon found out, after 30 days of launch, that the number one product question on Pepper was, tell me about credit cards, which was sort of amazing. So then we intersected another fintech partnership we launched about 6 months prior, which was the straight-through credit card application for credit cards. So not only could a customer then ask about credit cards on Pepper in the branch, where Pepper would tell you basic product features, but then as that journey continued, then Pepper gives today customers 3 choices. Would you like to talk to a banker about their credit card? Would you like to receive a text message or an email of the link to our public website and find out more information about that card? And if you so choose on your own device, with your own authentication, your own customer data and PAI, then apply for that credit card, and driving offline to online retail. And for example, then we thought, well, why not personal loans? Why not mortgages?
Yeah.
If you ask Pepper about mobile banking now, she'll tell you about mobile banking, then we'll say at the end, would you like to download the app? And give you the options to the App Store and the Google Play Store to download that on your device. We've seen really fascinating behavioral instances of how financial inclusion and literacy through Pepper explaining journeys for self-service and other products and services, because we know that 68% of Americans would rather watch a how-to video on YouTube than ask another person for how to do something.
Yeah.
So we recognize that trend, and we've been exploring ways of how Pepper can do much, much more than we first thought. And we think the longer-term vision for Pepper is ultimately a legitimately mobile bank. So in the same way that as the industry becomes more sort of digitized in a distribution sense, digital distribution of cash, like not crypto, like literal digital distribution of cash into your digital wallet from your financial institution. If you can apply for a credit card, you can then get that essentially straight through. You want to apply from a digital a personal loan online, you might have met Pepper at a shopping mall or in a corporate office or in the branch, and then you can apply for that loan, 3-minute application, 60-second credit decision, 24-hour funding. That's the future. And so therefore Pepper can be anywhere. She can be in a shopping mall, she can be at a hotel, she could be at a corporate office, and having that fun, engaging mobile bank experience anywhere.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you bring the bank to people. And that opens up opportunities to scale that nobody's ever really thought of. And that's our long-term vision for where we see this historic deployment going.
Great, very cool. So one last question to wrap us up here today. You know, last time we spoke, you talked about some projects that you had in the work that you weren't yet able to talk about. Are you able to talk about those now?
Yeah, well, I mean, wow. So I think when we last talked, we had another historic world first deployment of wearable technology, first bank to deploy wearable tech in a bank branch in the world. We did that with Samsung. So if Pepper was about the customer, the wearables is about our people. So how can I often think about the future of work and giving our people more tools to be more productive, more efficient, to reduce customer waiting times, to make them safer. So we deployed that first as a pilot. I know our colleagues in Dubai are now using the same solution with Samsung on wearables, but we first launched it here in the US. That was one. The second is we launched our another fintech partnership with a company called Amount out of Chicago to deploy a mobile lending platform powered by HSBC, which we launched a couple months ago, which has been tremendously successful. I think those were probably the two really, really big things that I was alluding to then. And I think by this time next year, we'll have another 2 or 3 really big things to announce as well. But it suffices to say, you know, when you think about the customer experience, you have 2 customers. You have the external people who pay you money, come and visit you every day, and you have your people. And so we think about how can we use technology, either directly or through partnership, to help that customer experience, external or internal, to deliver their needs better, faster, more efficient, more frictionless. And I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you have happy employees, you have happy customers. And I think that's the virtuous cycle. And we want customers to love banking. We want our people to love banking. We've been beaten up as an industry for the last 10, 12 years. Much of it fair, but there's been a lot, you know, we've seen morale, employee retention, attracting new talent from diverse sources. We want the best people to come into our industry. We want them to come and change the industry for the better, positive culture, innovation, and ideally come to join HSBC.
There you go. Great. Well, it sounds like you're doing a good job, you know, getting us started on that path. So
Thank
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and Jeremy, thank you for joining us as well. I'm Julie Moon. This is Jeremy Balkin. Thanks.